you can always add more to a painting, but you need to realize that the painting's already been done.
Like, at what day and moment was I just like, I'm not doing this anymore?
These are all past guests that
I wish I could
on,
go back and kick that sumbitch in the dick.
Whatever somebody's going through, like even the little things are things that like progressively get bigger. Like there's ways around it. There's ways to like go through it. There really is.
Everything has a consequence. Everything changes with every decision that you make.
This is me versus me.
Dun, dun, dun.
It's intense, you know? It's like going into war. It's what I always say.
It's cool.
I'm super excited about this episode. So today we have Samantha Gresham, and she's with Key Passages LLC, which I'm going to get right into because I want to know more about that. Okay. I've only seen a few of the clips. I've listened to a little bit. So what's your vision for Key Passages?
Well, I'm changing the world. So
there you go. It's a good start.
I just have been led to work to build something that helps others get through it. So my big belief is we go through our lives and we have all these experiences and lessons, and we get out on the other side of it, and then we walk other people through it. That's the whole point. It's just there's a Richard Martini, as he would say, we're all just walking each other home. So
that's cool.
And so I provide a lot of different services. It's growing and growing and growing. As I grow, I come into even more gifts, and started out nursing, and that's kind of morphed into some other things. I went through a spiritual awakening with the death of my brothers and my mom, and a series of pretty tragic events, along with other things in life itself. And just had a wake-up call. And it's interesting because when I look back at these certain the tragedies that we all experienced as a family, every one of them was, the key to it was wake up,
Mm-hmm.
wake up. And so I started waking up to the idea of there's more out there, and we're not just like drudging along in this life, going to work every day and hanging out with our family a few hours and then getting up and doing it all over again. There's like so much more out there, and we need to start doing what we're passionate about instead of just doing the everyday stuff, that doesn't give us any passion or joy.
I feel like our ultimate goals are kind of side by side here. Mm-hmm. Slightly different ventures, but realistically, at the end of the day, it's a lot of the same stuff. And I find it so fascinating to have these conversations with people and to try and better understand why when these things happen in your life that can define where you're going or what you're going to do with it. I find it fascinating to find out why they did what they did with it, because that information is so crucial to have. Mm-hmm. These are the things that teach us who we're going to be. Mm-hmm. What you do with the information that you're supposed to learn from it's everything.
Yes.
And like you said, it's the true guiding light. It's really unfortunate when it goes negatively, and I understand that tragedy is not always easy to be perceived correctly. But
yeah.
But that's amazing that you can transform these seemingly hugely negative things into the correct light for you.
Yeah, and I think that anytime that anybody, and my big thing really is, it's even morphed into some bigger things, is true empowerment. Because when you can take pain, and I mean raw, gut-wrenching, I don't know if I can make it here kind of pain, and you can transmute those feelings and transform those into those emotions and those things into something beautiful, to make that through the other side. Mm-hmm. And then to turn back and grab someone's hand and I'm getting goosebumps to walk other people through that. I mean, isn't that the whole point of life? Aren't we all here? Aren't we all really on the same team?
We are, and that's you dabbled in something that I repeat so often, is I want to make sure that this voice is loud enough for everybody to hear that you're not alone.
Yeah.
Nobody needs to be alone through all this shit. We're all going through our own battles together.
Yeah. And
there's no reason that it doesn't need to be harder than it already is.
Well, and I think what happens is we get kind of lost. So I always say and I don't even remember where I heard it, but my son and I talk about it all the time. The villain and the hero all have the same backstory. It's what they choose to do with it.
Oh,
And
that's so important.
Yeah, so you either repeat those things or you decide you're going to be better and you're going to show better. And here's the other thing. I think what's really important and why we all have such a fear of showing up, of, we have all these doubts and fears and things that keep us from doing the things that we have that little bit of spark in us to do, but we just don't actually follow through with it because of insecurities or pain, or, fear, doubt, that kind of thing. And I think a lot of that stems back from when we're children, back before we have coping skills to understand these things. So we develop these isms, right? And when we're kids, we really depend completely and solely on our parents we don't worry about where we're getting dinner. We don't worry about finances. We're just kind of plugging along and having full trust in our parents. And not only just our parents, because sometimes they get the bad rap,
Yeah.
It's also people that are in daycare that are raising your kids 8 hours out of the day, or teachers, neighbors, people in your environment. They shape us. Everybody shapes us a little bit. We learn a little bit more and a little bit more. And as we go through these experiences, even as children, without those coping skills, we develop these. It's why you hear a lot of people are empathic or they understand energy. That's a trauma response because they had to learn to read a room, especially in an abusive childhood. That, not to say that I have, but I'm just saying people with abusive childhoods, they have to learn to read the room. And so then they grow up with these empathic things and they take on everybody else's. I'm all big about energy. Energy is everything. We are all energy.
I believe that 100%.
Yeah. And so we take on those energies of other people and don't even realize they're not ours. But we're gotten so used to knowing, studying, and figuring out how to maneuver around those things. And if we don't, and as we get up, and it's funny, and I'm going to upset a lot of people about this, and it's just what it is. I'm sorry, I'm who I am. We get people in their 30s and 40s and 50s that are still blaming their parents. They're still blaming their relationships and everything about who they are and why they have all these, whatever keeps them from moving on in their life, and all these things that they've developed, and they always have someone else to blame. And you are not under their thumb anymore. You are not under their...
Right.
It's time. You're not in that position where you have no other choice. You can make the decision to change. You can be the hero or the villain.
It's so important that people know how to distinguish that, and not a lot of people choose to.
Yeah.
I am truly sorry. We need to take a small break. We're having a bit of a technical difficulty. All right, I think we're in good shape now. We were talking a little bit about the energy and the way it guides us, and
Oh yeah.
and listening to that, more importantly.
Yeah.
I'm a big proponent of that. Huge. I listen. I try to listen to the way I feel about things, probably more than the way I listen to reading the room. Oh no, I guess I kind of put those hand in hand. I try to listen to the situation more than I listen to people's words. Does that make sense?
It does. And actually, what I want to interject in that is that if you actually really pay attention to it, you'll feel it in your gut.
Yeah.
You will feel it in your gut. We call that something else when you start talking about like spiritual. I'm not spiritual, but energy. You've heard about the chakras and the, so you'll actually feel it in your gut, which is where your solar plexus is. You'll sense it if you actually pay attention. And you can feel when something is not right. You know how women anyway have a creep vibe. It's in our DNA. And it really is from primitive times back when we were prey.
Yeah, sure.
And
it makes complete sense.
Yeah, so we are a little bit, and I remember Chris and I would have conversations. He's like, "Oh no, he's really cool." I'm like, "Nah, something's wrong with that guy." He's like, "No, he's really cool." I'm like, "I'm telling you something." And sure enough, he'd be like a creepo, and I'd be like, "Well, we have like this built-in creep meter." So we all have that sense about it, but we just get so caught up in life and all the background noise, and then we have all these voices, all the friends and the family, and all these people that are interjecting all their thoughts and ideas, and we get into a place where we're like, we don't even know where we're at anymore. So when you can like stop, that's why a lot of people get a lot out of meditations and things like that, where they can just stop, slow down their mind for a moment, and actually just dial in and just kind of sit there. Even if you don't even have to meditate, just sit there with yourself for a minute and think. Ultimately, I've heard this person's opinion and this person's opinion, and here's what I feel. This is what I think I should do. Because it's our internal GPS, our guidance. I mean, it never fails us.
No,
we follow that.
If you listen to it,
Yes.
it's very loud and clear.
Yes.
One of the things that I've been kind of brought to light to recently, just a different thought, and I'm not really sure how to perceive it, but I start with the thought. But somebody introduced me to the thought that not everybody has that guiding voice, like your own voice. You ever?
I don't believe that.
And see, that's kind of where my mind is at. I don't fully believe that not everybody has it. I feel like people choose not to listen to it.
We're not listening.
Because if you just take a second and, really analyze the moments that you need to be thinking about certain things or decisions you're making, whatever the case may be, I think that everybody has it. It boggles my mind that people choose not to listen to it
Some
at
don't
all.
even know. Some don't even realize it.
Yeah.
How many times? Let me ask you this.
Maybe that's the case too.
Yeah, let me ask you how many times that you were driving somewhere and all of a sudden you thought, I'm going to turn this way instead. And you found out there was good thing I turned that way. This happened.
Mm-hmm.
Or you're in the grocery store and it was something that you thought you had and you're like, I'm going to pick this up anyway. You find out you didn't. So stupid little things like that. It doesn't even have to be big. We have that inner guidance. We all do. We all have it. It's a matter of some people aren't even aware. I wasn't aware of it for a really long time. I thought they were my own thoughts. Actually,
that's fair.
I'm careful about what I say because if it affects anybody else, I have to be very careful about how that. But I will give you a situation. I was actually at my son's house, my youngest son's house, late in the morning one day. I had been sick all day, slept all day, got up and I was ready to go. 1:30 in the morning. Oh, who's up? Who's out?
Yeah.
And at the time he was shifting between working days and working nights, so I wasn't sure really at what point I'd catch him in that. So I give him a call and I say, hey, I'm running around to get something to eat. You want to go? I'm kind of thinking about getting to bed and sleeping in. Well, I was in the intro. I was talking as I was talking to him. I was driving towards his house. I found myself kind of like moseying over there. So I said, well, "Can I use the restroom real quick?" Sure. So we get to talking. We talked for a couple hours, right? And as I was leaving, and this is 6 weeks after my second little brother passed away tragically, and I still hadn't even processed that really. And I was talking with Jared, and we were kind of like just dragging this out. Well, this time I didn't realize we get stalled by things to put us in a certain place at a certain time.
I would agree with that.
I had no idea that was even an issue. And so we were dragging out this whole goodbye, like, I'm almost to the gate. Someone stopped me. He's like, oh no, we're goofing off. And so I finally said, okay, love you, bye. I'm out of here. So I get in my car. I pull out onto the main street there. On the north end of that street is where the 101 is. So there's no traffic. Also, it's December 28th, right after Christmas. It's 3:30 in the morning. There's no one on the road.
Right.
And nobody's coming off and from that direction unless it's, somebody coming off the freeway, which is, not very likely. And it's kind of raining. It's drizzly a little bit. And I pull up to a light. And I normally would go down to Bell, or I would normally turn on Union Hills, but I decided, you know what, nobody's out. I think I'll go down to Bell tonight, And just as I was thinking that, this loud thought, how people say they have voices or they hear voices? I don't know. Everyone has different gifts.
Sure.
I don't hear voices, but I will get a loud thought or something that's not. I feel like, where'd that come from? Like, that's not even my vocabulary. So I pull up to this light, and this loud thought comes in. Turn right. Okay?
All right. Guess we'll go right.
So I'm like, yeah, Bell, even though there's no traffic, there's still a lot of lights on Bell anyway, so I move over into the next lane. And I edge up just enough to where I can see if other cars are coming. And just as I do that, bam. The car next to me at the light, the only other car on the road that I saw, I heard no lights, I heard no brakes, was slammed in the back to at 86 miles an hour.
Holy shit.
Yeah. The car's spinning. You're only a few feet away in your next lane from somebody anyway, so I don't know if I'm hit. I don't know what's going on. I just see this car spinning. So I hit the gas and call 911, hit the button to call 911. I flip back around and I run over to the scene. And the car that hit him is in the intersection facing the opposite way. And as I'm running to the car that has now stopped against this pole, I'm yelling to the guy in the car, is there anyone else in the car? No, it's just me. Are you sure? I'm the only one. And he's running over to the corner with me. So I'm trying to get the airbags, cut the airbags so I can see in this car. And the kid is looks perfect. Like nothing's wrong. I mean, he's just kind of sitting there in the seatbelt, not saying anything. And I'm talking to him. Hey, stay with me. The paramedics are on their way. You could obviously the car was badly damaged. And so I said, stay with me, keep talking to me, that kind of thing. The paramedics are on their way. I run around the other side, make sure no one's in the back. I realize he's lifted his head. I come back around the other side, and I'm talking to him, and I'm saying, and I'm looking at his eyes. And I'm saying, can you tell me your name? And he never said anything to me, but he had this little like micro expression. I could tell he was trying. And then the policeman shows up. He's checking his pulse, but I'm watching him. I'm talking to him while he's breathing. And so I called it just felt like forever, even though it was only about 4 minutes. So I called 911 back. Are you guys coming? This kid's now at this point he's starting to have blood coming from his nose. And now the car's on fire in the intersection.
Oh, perfect.
And so I said, we got this kid bleeding and this car's on fire. You guys come? They said, we're pulling up in just a moment. And really it was just a moment later they pulled up. But he took his last breath. I watched him do it.
Oof.
As he went into shock, I started praying with him. Jesus, please send extra angels,
Mm-hmm.
And he passed away. And so when 911 pulled up, I had said he just stopped breathing, just lost his pulse. And they went to do CPR, but he had already gone. But because many years ago, one of my brothers was in the same situation. We were in the same situation where he was in a car accident. And I knew it would take 2 months or so before the police reports came out and you got the witness statements. And I remember what that felt like with all the things, your mind always goes to the most horrible thing,
Yeah, always.
Was he in pain? Was he suffering? Was he cold? Was he, afraid, And so, and until we really got those witness statements to piece it all together, I mean, that was horrible. So I remember just being like obsessed with when they were going to release the names of the people involved. And then I reached out, I finally found the family on Facebook and I said, hey, I just want you to know I was there. You don't feel obligated to contact me, but I just want you to know that he didn't suffer.
Mm-hmm.
And it turned into a really beautiful relationship with his mother and his family. And it's been really great. But my whole point to that is it was a simple thought, turn right.
Yeah.
If I hadn't listened to that, who knows?
Right.
And from that point on is when I got into a place where I thought, like I said, I hadn't even processed my brother's death six weeks prior. I was still, in that processing part. And so that's where I kind of got where I don't see any joy in this anymore. It's just sadness here. It's just so sad. And I got to the point where I started having thoughts about not wanting to be here.
Mm-hmm.
And it scared the crap out of me. And there were a lot of things that led up to that. I had been at a job 6 weeks for 6 years. Prior to that, a week before my brother passed away, I was fired. 2 major appliances for 6 straight weeks broke. My dog was sick. He had really bad allergies and would scratch and get secondary infections. I'm working as a nurse, so I'm dealing with illness there, and then I come home and I'm dealing with illness. Chris had just been in a motorcycle accident and shattered his knee, had to learn to walk again. So it was just like one thing. It was just hit after
surrounded
hit
by
after
sadness.
hit. Yeah, and it got to the point where I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I don't see the joy anymore. And it actually really scared, because I've been in every after school special you can think of. And I'm a pretty tough cookie. I've been through some stuff. And I was at the point where I just remember thinking, I'm tired of fighting. I'm tired of fighting. And it was that moment. It was like, okay. The universe was like, now that you're done, he gave us something to work with.
Mm-hmm.
And they scooped me up and sent me out. And I met all these people that helped me mentor and that mentored me and helped me through this. And I remember going to Sedona, and everybody around there anyone I met would be like, oh, the universe doesn't happen to you. It happens for you. And I remember thinking, these people are nuts, man. Like, what are you... I'm raw, right?
Yeah.
I am raw. And I remember just thinking, they're insane. Like, what are they even talking about? But then I started realizing something. My my parents started a cremation service for animals. I was like 9 years old when that started. Then I went into nursing school. Then my little brother was killed in a car accident. Then my mother died of Alzheimer's dementia. I believe she willed herself to forget from the just the sadness of my brother, of her losing a child. Then my other little brother passes away. Then this car accident. And so it was when one of my very good friends, I owe, oh my gosh, everything to, Kevin. He said, you were telling me your story, and that's a lot, when you talked about the gentleman in the car accident that wasn't even in your family, that's when my higher guidance told me your gift was in death and dying. And I thought about it, and I thought, holy shit. I've been training for this my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
From a kid being around animals that had passed to nursing and losing some of those, and then these, like half my immediate family, and then this kid. And then I realized, and he said, have you ever thought about doing hospice? And I said, I've done every aspect of nursing, every single facet and branch of it, except ICU and hospice. I watched my mother pass of Alzheimer's dementia. It's depressing and sad, and that's the last thing I want to do. He said, but you ever seen the movie The Color Purple? Maybe God's trying to tell you something. And so I thought, okay, I don't want to do that, but I'll be nice and at least go. He said, if you look out the window, there's a hospice thing right across the street here. And I just, he was so kind about it. I thought, okay, I went and got an application. He was at least just, kind of volunteer, see if you like it. You're out here a lot anyway.
Right. You may as well.
Yeah. So I said, okay, he was so nice about it. I didn't want him to think I just blew him off. And at the time I was on unemployment. So I was sending out, job things, but I didn't want that job. And so, and this is important to tell people, I'm not just saying this for no reason about me. Pay attention to things, because I wrote my number. I had my number typed super small, like, so they wouldn't call me. And really, because I thought I'm still healing, and that's the last thing I want to do. So, but anyway, I was still open to at least listening. And a few weeks later, my oldest son and my daughter-in-law, I want to go out there to just hang out, just go to some shops and have lunch. And my son, who's a workaholic, never calls off a day in his life. Of course, he called off that day. And he's like, I said, you're not bothering. You're not getting our way. We're going to Sedona. And he doesn't believe in any of this stuff, right? He's like, what is going on here? And so when I walk into that little boutique that I was in, where my friend Kevin and Richie, who are amazing human beings, he says, you're going to get the call you've been waiting for today. And my son says, whatever. We get in the truck. We drive about, 20 minutes into West Sedona into another shop I wanted to go in. I'm not in the door 5 minutes. My phone rings, and it's a hospice calling me for an interview.
Oh.
And I said, okay, well, I'm out of town right now, but I'll be in next week, which was the week before COVID hit. If I had waited another week.
This is all pretty recent then.
Yeah. So
Jeez.
If I had waited another week, they weren't hired. They stopped hiring. Nobody was hiring. They were sending people home and doing stuff from your computer, And, do we talk about John?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. I mean, I don't know if there's a feeling. You've met him, right? Or did you?
We did.
Okay.
I think
So anyway.
I think several times,
So this was right after when John passed away. And so I go in, it's for the interview, and I'm like, yeah, I don't want to work weekends, because I don't want it, right? I don't want to work weekends. I want X amount of money. I take off a week, 4th of July every year for a family reunion, and I want time off at Christmas. And I'm like, there's no way they're going to give this to me,
Right.
And they said, okay.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
You're like,
I
shit.
started on, remember his name's John, I started on March 16th, John 3:16. It was the best job I ever had in my life.
Wow.
And the reason being is because all that pain and all that rawness and all that tragedy and all that, that was just killing me inside and making me really not even want to be here, is exactly what I delved right into with people that are passing away.
Yeah.
And so not only did I have the thing is, like I say, everyone can have compassion and sympathy, but to have empathy, you have to walk through that yourself.
Right. You have to be able to understand.
Yes. And so the amount of people that I was able to help in various situations, because I had gone through them myself. People don't just, anybody can lie, We feel the truth. You just kind of know if you're paying attention when someone's not being authentic. You can feel it.
You definitely can.
Yeah.
If your eyes are open, then
yeah,
you can for sure see it.
And so when I tell somebody, hey, I know that you're struggling. Your mom has Alzheimer's, and you're working really hard. And I know that sometimes when those feelings come in, when she does finally pass, and you feel some relief, it's totally normal. It's not that you want her to pass. It's that you're tired of watching her suffering. You're exhausted, and you want to get back to your life.
I think it is huge. I'm sorry for interrupting.
No, please
But
do.
that is such a crazy notion to say out loud. But the fact that I agree with you is so human, you know? I cannot imagine how much relief that statement alone brings people.
Right.
Because I'm sure people feel like shit about it.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I would too. Same thing, like my mom's terminally ill too, and I sure as hell feel like shit about feeling the way I do about it.
Well, so that's
that
the
is-
shoulda, woulda, coulda loop that runs in our head.
Right, that is insane that you said that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No,
He struck a
please.
nerve. I was
No,
like,
no.
wow, for
And it
somebody to
does.
say that out loud,
Yeah.
that's amazing. It's human.
Yeah.
And there's
So
nothing wrong with that.
So that's how I felt. I thought, not only from a personal perspective, but from a professional perspective, I remember thinking when my mom finally passed, it was not easy. I and this is important to say, I am very blessed to have amazing human beings as family members.
Mm-hmm.
And my brother John and my sister Sarah were just phenomenal. We all picked up and helped my mother with the Alzheimer's, and so she could stay in her home. And this went on for years
It's phenomenal.
of taking care of her. But there are people out there that have no one. It's just them. That's it. I can't imagine them going through that. And I remember thinking, even with all that help, when my mom finally passed, as much as I love my mom, and I am very much who I am, largely because of her and her strength. I remember taking a sigh of relief. How sick is that? I remember, of course I'm devastated. I'm not going to lie. I crawled in bed right next to her in the hospital bed and laid there with her.
Yeah.
But then later, okay. And I remember thinking, what kind of a sick human being are you? Not
I can
only
see
are
that.
you, not only are, from a human standpoint of being glad that she's no longer here, from a professional, you're a nurse. Like, how can you feel like that? And then I realized it's because I didn't want to watch. I loved her so much. I didn't want to watch her suffer anymore.
Well, I was gonna say I feel like it's important also to acknowledge the fact that they're free from all that.
Yes.
They are free from all the suffering that they were going through as well, you know. And seeing them in that completely unnatural, just distressed state all the time is painful for everybody.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with what you said.
Yeah.
And
No.
feeling that way is normal. I agree, because you do love them, but there's no reason or want to feel them or to see them in that state.
Yeah. And not only that, you're exhausted.
Yeah, that too.
You're exhausted. You're constantly worrying. You're constantly, making space in your life. And I don't want to say it like it was a chore. It was an honor. I am honored that I got to take care of my mother, that I got to return the favor. She took care of me. I got to take care of her. And it's such an honor. So don't get me wrong. But it was exhausting, and I was ready to get my life back. And that's real. That's real. That's honest. And people are going through. And I remember telling this one gal that, one of the patient's daughters, who was just completely overwhelmed. I can't even imagine how she did all that on her own. And the second I said that, she completely broke down because that's what she was feeling.
Yeah, somebody else felt the same way she did for
Yeah.
once.
And who would say that?
Right.
And that's even from a young kid as a teenager, it was weird. Like, anytime I'd be in a place where I was going to judge I would never do that. It's always ones with kids that don't have children. They'll be like, I will never treat my kids like that.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's always the one that have no clue. But I would say things like that when I was younger. Like, I would never do that. And damn, if every time I did that, if I didn't get put in a situation where I understood. So I learned from a young age, you don't judge people. We're human, man. This is real stuff.
Isn't it wild how that works? I told you before, I'm not hugely religious, which is okay, but I definitely do believe that you are given reasons and these profound examples of why, or I'm sorry, how you can work on the things that you need to work on.
Yeah.
You know, one of my biggest things for a long time, just as an example, is what I'm talking about is like being patient. I've been such an impatient person for most of my life, and just spontaneous choices, whether they were right or wrong, and I've constantly have these reasons why I need to be patient. put in front of me. And a lot of people, you have to open your eyes to see stuff like that. And just like you've had 1.5 million reasons to see what you're designed to do. And it took until just recently to figure it out.
Yeah, well, just to circle back on that, we're talking about being stalled.
That's true.
And when you talk about impatience, had I been impatient?
Oh, yeah. Well,
had I gotten there, you know what I'm saying?
mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the kind of stuff, whenever you feel stalled, pay attention.
Yeah, maybe listen a little bit.
Pay attention. Because there's usually a reason.
I would agree with that.
And I remember going to, I was so honored and grateful to be invited to that young man's celebration of life. And on the way there, I was freaking out, right? I'm going to meet the family. I don't know how they're going to respond, and we're going to meet the celebration of life. It's very anxiety ridden, right? And I'm driving with Jared, actually. And I am like running behind on the freeway, flipping out, like I don't want to be late, la, 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 la. And he stops me, and it was almost like it didn't come from him, even though he's kind of like that anyway.
Mm-hmm.
It was like I felt it in my core. And he said, "Mom, breathe. You're going to get there right on time. You're going to get there exactly when you're supposed to get there."
Ooh.
And
somebody was speaking for you.
Yeah. And I was like, you know what? You're right. And I took a deep breath, and I just chilled out. And if I didn't get there right on time, they hadn't set stuff up. And we came and walked in on the perfect opportunity where they weren't caught up in stuff, and it all just completely worked out. And so I got lesson after lesson after lesson that being impatient.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a part of control too. We're not controlling a situation.
It is. Oh, that's so true.
Yes. So if we're not in control of a situation, then we become impatient. And the road, like, you idiot, blah, blah, blah. And you know what? That car may be stopping you from something that you really shouldn't be in on. And let's talk about control. Control comes back to what? Where do these things come from? And so I'm going to tell you how I got where I am now and started the business to help others and get the word out there and show up and be who you are and just be okay to be human.
Mm-hmm.
Is little things like that, where I spent time digging down and really asking myself, quit making excuses and blaming everyone else for your stuff. Like I would blame Chris, for this or that. And I thought, why am I trying to change you? You're perfectly happy the way you are. Clearly I have the issue if I'm trying to change somebody who's very happy and go with the flow.
Mm-hmm.
Where are my issues? So when I asked him, like, hey, I'm gonna ask you to step. I'm gonna need some time to myself. I want to separate for a bit. Because I really want to dig down and find out what's wrong with me. Why am I so controlling? Why do I care what you're doing if you're happy? Why aren't I happy that you're happy? Right? So then I had to really look at myself, and now I have no one to blame, right? So I would literally almost envision this swamp with these bubbles kind of bumping up every time I would get in a situation where I was angry or upset or jealous or whatever happens. And I'm not typically a jealous person. I really never have been. But these things would start to, bubble up, and I'd go, oh, okay, that's a problem. I need to dig down and find out.
Mm-hmm.
And what it is typically speaking, when we become in that position of where we feel out of control and we have to control something, it's because we've been let down before. We have been shown that other people are not going to show up for us in the way that we want.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we want it done, we better take care of it ourselves. That's a trauma response.
Oh, this is bullshit is what it is.
Yeah, right? and then you add on it's all these side effects to that. Then there's this, then you've got the impatience, and then you're so impatient. Now you've got anger, and you just act out.
Mm-hmm.
And if we would just take 1 second and just kind of draw back in for a second and go, hold on, let me control my reaction on this. What is really bothering me? That's showing up as anger. That's showing up as impatience, or showing up as control. Where is that core problem? Because we can put Band-Aids on it all day long. That's what most people do, right? They just shove a Band-Aid on it and keep moving.
Sure.
But when you really dig down and you're honest with yourself, and you dig down to where those core problems are, and you fix them, and then you're freaking unstoppable.
The training process that goes into everything that you're explaining is probably one of the hardest things I've ever had to do for myself, but I will definitely agree with you. Once you accomplish and you're able to kind of harness, your own thoughts and your own integrity for yourself, it feels amazing.
Yeah.
For one, and avoiding that automatic response that's out of something you don't really want to do.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily what you want, but again, you respond because of the way you feel.
We react.
Yeah,
We're in constant reaction mode.
React is
Yeah.
a better word for
Yeah.
it, but I completely agree with you, and being able to accomplish that for yourself is outside of amazing. It's the greatest thing you can do for yourself.
Well, and here's the funny thing. Once you I've been myself through a narcissistic relationship in the past, and so I have girlfriends that are experiencing it, some in various stages of that issue, and I keep telling them, I'm trying to show you as an example. Choose you.
Mm-hmm.
Choose you. So my whole life I was a nurse. I gave to everybody. I helped my parents with the kids because I was the oldest of 4, right? Then I was a teenage mother and I took care of my own children. Then I became a nurse and I took care of other people. And then I took care of along with my siblings, my mother when she was going, and plus everybody else and your neighbors and your friends, and it goes on and on and on, right? And I finally hit a point about that time. Remember I said it just kind of like got to this point where I'm like, I don't even want to be here anymore.
Yeah.
I don't see the joy.
Yeah.
And when I finally was like, choose you. You've done everything else for everybody else. You've lost who you were. When my ex and I split up, I didn't even know I liked to read. Didn't even know it.
Oh, that's fucked up.
Right? Because I was taking care of him. I was a mother. I was a sister. I was a neighbor. I was a daughter. I was a granddaughter. I mean, everything else to everyone else. And I didn't know who I was anymore. Who am I? And I'm pretty freaking tough.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't know who I was. And I kind of got lost in that. And so when I finally decided, screw everyone, and this is about that time where I had that awakening moment, where I really said to everybody, family included, and family is everything to me. I mean, that's the reason I live. And when I said, here's the deal, I am choosing to stay here after all this. That's where I got to the point too. I'm choosing to stay here. But I'm telling you this, I've spent this part of my life, half my life, unhappy and doing everything for everyone else. And I'm not saying be selfish, but don't get lost. Have some boundaries for yourself. And so I said, here's the deal. I'm choosing me. I'm going to be happy the rest of. I'm stuck here because I was even like, y'all left me, like you guys were cool. You left me. I feel kind of alone here. And when I realized that if I'm going to be stuck here, I might as well enjoy it. I made a decision to choose me. And I told everybody in my circle, family included, you either get on board with me and you move with me, or you get the hell out of my way, because I will not be unhappy another day of my life.
I think that what you just said is kind of important, because a lot of people take that statement as kind of like a blanket, and they just, instead of having the balance of allowing people to be with them still, they just choose to, I'm just going to do me and fuck everybody else.
Yep.
And that kind of thing is not always, I feel like that's a little rough, That's not quite what we're looking for. And,
right.
That balance is so important. You can allow as many people as you want to be with you, provided, everybody's doing good for each other. Provided,
and that's what it's about. First of all, you hit a key thing right there. And I'm actually surprised I didn't notice it. Balance is everything.
It's huge.
Everything.
Yeah.
And they knew I was serious. Like, hey, I want you in my life. I'd love you to go with me. But if you're negative and bringing me down, you got to go.
Unfortunately.
You got to go.
Yeah.
I can't. You either go where I'm going. There's this really, I hope I don't screw up the name. TD Jakes, is it? It's a preacher. And he has this, I posted it on one of my platforms, and it talks about the people, it's like a rocket booster, and you've got the rocket and you've got the boosters, right? And once the rocket hits a certain elevation, the boosters fall off.
Mm-hmm.
And they're talking about the people that just aren't meant to go where you're going. And it's I'm not mad at you. I love you. I forgive you, everything, whatever. But if you can't go where I'm going, I got to let you fall off.
Right.
Because I got to choose me for once. And here's what I'm trying to circle all around to, is once you choose you and you build that strength and you stand back up, I always like picture of it like a phoenix, when you get back there, when you get back to that place, you'd be amazed at the beauty and the love that is magnetized to you because they were all just waiting for you to choose you.
It's so cliche, but at the end of the day, you know, to go places you've never been, you have to do things you've never done.
Yeah.
And I'll say it a million times to myself, you know, you have to step outside and you have to face fears and you have to do things that you've never done. And sometimes that means stepping away from certain situations or scenarios.
Yeah, you got to let people go sometimes, the people you really love, because it's kind of like I get to the point where I had a lady I worked with, and very negative. Oh my gosh, she was so negative. And yeah, I'm going to be honest, I was negative for a long time. I mean, that's how I know it.
Right.
I was negative. In fact, a lot of my humor was based on sarcasm and being negative, where I had to go, whoa, hold on a second. They literally call it spelling because we're casting spells. It even says in the Bible, the power of the tongue. We say things, and we don't realize. I'm going to throw this in. I know I'm everywhere right now, but it's like I'm getting stuff down. You know,
That's
it's
all right.
coming to me.
Yeah.
So, what was I going to say about that? I just totally lost it. Huh? Yeah, words matter. They do. And
Yeah,
I
they
didn't
do.
really know that I believed in that totally, but they do. And so I was talking to a friend of mine that, well, it actually was a friend of a friend. I was picking him up for my friend, and we're driving, and I said, you know, I had many things I had to do, and I said I have to go. I got a call from Chris saying, hey, can you pick me up? They want me to drop the truck off at the auto place, and so I turned to my friend and I said, now I have to go get Chris. And then I went, no, because I was just talking to him about vibrations and what we put out there and what we say, and the vibration that it carries, which turns into frequencies, like, you know, and into energy, right? And so I was just explaining that to him, and then that happened. And so I said, I have to go get Chris. And then I went, well, no. Wait a second. I get to go get Chris. And so I said to him, do you see, I changed one word. I won't even change my tone. I'll change one word. And you see where all of a sudden you start getting an attitude of gratitude. Because then it was like, I get to go get Chris. I get to be out. I get to enjoy transportation. Not a lot of people have that. I get to be out in the sun. I get to see people. I didn't know I was going to see him this afternoon. So now I get to go hang out with him. Maybe we'll go to lunch. You know what I mean? You start thinking about all the good things that can happen with this scenario that you didn't expect.
The amount of opportunity
Yeah.
that was just given.
By changing one word.
Right.
Instead of, I have to go get Chris, I get to go get Chris. I said, do you see how does that feel? And he goes, well, the first one feels obligatory.
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, because that's how I made it sound. But when I started thinking about, hey, it could be cool, we could go get lunch, we could hang out, I wasn't expecting that. He got off early. And when I realized just changing that one word actually changes the whole vibration of that sentence, and realized that it's a boomerang. What we send out, it's just frequencies. The universe does not understand want and don't want. It understands frequencies. So what you put out is what you get back. If you don't like what you put out, change the channel. It's a frequency. You change the channel.
This is the whole wild idea of to take it a step further, is like manifestation of your own
Absolutely.
energy, you know?
Yeah.
Everybody says think it into existence, and that sounds ridiculous, but at the end of the day, if you focus on the same thing for a certain amount of time, you'll see opportunities to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish.
You do it all the time. You've been doing it your whole life. You didn't look at it that way.
You just have to open your eyes.
You just didn't look at it that way. You're like, I want to do this, want to do this, want to get this truck. And you don't really think about the power that you have behind that. And then eventually you get that truck that you've been planning. I finally got the truck I wanted.
You manifest your own, you know, everything you want.
I will tell you this. We literally create our own reality. And you want to know my personal belief? If you think, and this is why I think a lot of people have problems with religion, is because it's very fear-based. It's very fear-based. And no, people don't, the people that I have spoke to, they don't necessarily not believe in God, or some of them believe in God but not Jesus. Some of them don't believe in that. Some people are totally atheists, you know. But it's not, their problem with religion isn't necessarily the idea of a higher power. Their problem is with the organized religion that puts a lot of the fear-based stuff in it. If you do this, you're going to hell. If you do that, you're going to hell. If you do this, you're going to hell.
Yeah. I see
And
where
so
you're
the
going.
reality is, we create. I promise you'll see it. If anybody has the inkling, just for a second, start paying attention to that. We are literally creating our own reality. And for those that think they're going to hell, then that's where you're going.
Sure.
If you think you're going to heaven, that's where you're going. You create your own reality.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't realize we're doing that, but we are.
It's so extremely true, though. I mean, you have so much control over everything that you do and think and say, and all these things provide the reality that you see in front of you. You know,
Yes.
and it's cheesy, but I've known him for long enough now that every time I used to see him, one of the things that I always
Jared,
yeah,
you mean? Yeah.
one of the things I always noticed about having a conversation with him was he used to banter with us and he'd have funny conversations and things like that, but he never talked shit.
Yeah.
And I always noticed that about he always was smiling, and any conversation you had with him was positive. And I used to think like,
What's wrong with that dude?
like well, in the back of my mind, I'm like, how's he doing it?
Yeah.
How the hell is he doing that? And that was a long time ago now, but I saw it. You know, I see you, man. Why do you think I'm always so excited to see you?
You know what's funny is I always just thought he was a weird little kid. Because he was always so quiet, you know. And my boys are. He is a sponge, and my boys both are very talented, very gifted people, very cool people, good people, right? But my oldest one, he's the one that's teaching me unconditional love. Okay, this one was always just a weird, quiet kid that, you know, if he got upset, he'd go crawl under the bed and I just thought he was a little weirdo, you know, like, okay, that's how he deals with it, you know. But what I didn't realize is he had it figured out. He's an old soul.
That is 100%. I feel that because his power of observation and the way he's constantly just watching and learning and listening, I picked it up early, and that's why I always strive so hard. And back in the day, I used to bug the shit out of him to come up, you know. I used to text him all the time, like, why aren't you out? Why aren't you out? And little did I know, he's, like, smart enough to not be at that fucking bar. I get it now, you know. You taught me some stuff.
Yeah,
but
he's a beast. Boy, he's a beast. And I've learned a lot from him just by the way he just kind of, because he's not a reactor. That's what you're noticing about him. Mm-hmm. He's not a reactor. He's not a follower.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he taught me that, like, I'm reacting, because we get in those trauma responses where we're like, you know, and you're like, no, hold on a second. It's not my issue. It's your issue. Why am I reacting? So it's incredible. You learn a lot, you know, as you go through it. And I'll tell you what. I want to get this out for people with forgiveness. Like I said earlier, like, our parents kind of get the hard rap. And, you know, sometimes they deserve it, but I remember my parents were like in their 30s, and I remember looking at them going like, man, they know everything. Like, they know every answer to everything. And then I got to be a parent in my 30s, and I was like, they didn't know shit.
Right. They didn't have a damn clue.
They knew nothing. You know what I mean? They were winging it just like the rest of us. And when you look back and you realize that people are just doing the best they can with what they have at the time, because, you know, hindsight's always 20/20. We always look back and go, oh, why didn't I do this different? Or why, especially with me having 3 immediate family members pass away, don't you think regret was something I dealt with?
Sure.
I mean, and I would look back and go, I wish I would have done this. I wish I could have done that. I wish the woulda, shoulda, coulda loop. And the reality is that hindsight's 20/20. You don't know, when something like that happens, you just sit there and beat yourself up, you know, like, but you don't remember why you didn't do this or that. There was a reason. You know, why didn't I take my mom out more? Because I had little kids and they were involved in sports and I was in school and there was a lot of stuff going on. But when it actually happens, we're so easy to beat ourselves up and say, you know, why didn't I do that? You know, and have that regret, because I did the best I could with what I had at the time. Mm-hmm. And so when it got to my mom after, like, the, you know, other ones that had passed, and I thought, and we always say, like, why didn't we call? You know, you've had friends, I'm sure. We've all done it. Where we're like, dude, I just saw that guy like 2 weeks ago. And he called and I didn't call him back. I should have called him back.
Yeah.
Or I didn't know that guy. I had one that committed suicide. Had no idea he was struggling. I wish I would have answered that phone call.
Fuck, that's rough.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, and you have those regrets, and they just eat at you and eat at you and eat at you. And when you stop and realize that, start paying attention to what you're doing and why you're doing it. First of all, be cognizant that, first of all, let me back up even further. We're important. We are incredibly important to each other, to ourselves, to the community, to the collective. We have an incredibly important role. I don't care who you are or what you do. I always would hear people when I was a nurse, they would say, as a certified nurse assistant would come up as a CNA and assistant. And they would say, well, I'm just a CNA. I'm like, first of all, don't ever, please, in front of me, call yourself just anything.
Mm-hmm.
You're not just a this or a just a that. Without you, we couldn't do our job. You have more eyes on them than we do.
Everybody has roles.
That's what I'm saying.
In everything.
But don't say you're just something. You are important.
Mm-hmm.
We're all important. And we're all important as a collective. And when they have that, I wish I would have done this, or I wish I would have done that. Just remember how important we are and what role we play in this world.
On that beautiful note, I'm going to agree with you, and I'm going to also remind you.
You better.
That is that is exactly what I'm out here trying to remind everybody of. And once I have the opportunity to make this voice go as far as I need it to, or I want it to, that's going to be the message overall. Is don't everybody is important. Your story is important. Everything you go through is important.
Yeah.
And there's no reason for you to ever downplay that, or be negative to yourself or to others for that matter.
Yeah.
I think that's the brightest message that somebody could really bring to the table is telling somebody else that they're important.
And stop being fearful, guys. Stop being in that doubt and fear. And what if no one cares what I have to say? And what if they think I look stupid? Or what if get it out there. Stop being fearful. Be who you are. You're here for a reason. You came here for a reason to play a particular. We're all just playing characters on a stage, right?
We really are. Yeah.
So you came to play this role. You have an important role. Be who you are, man. Stand up. Screw everybody else. Because everyone's going to have a reason to hate on you, right?
Yep.
And that's the thing about when you choose yourself and you start loving yourself, you don't give a shit.
No.
If somebody doesn't like you, you actually go, too bad you don't get it. I'm sorry.
It makes it 30 times easier to just say okay and walk away.
Yeah, just be who you are, man.
If this is what we're gonna look at, then I'm gonna go ahead and separate.
Mm-hmm.
And I have no problem with that. I agree with you.
Yeah.
We're gonna close out here in a minute. Do you want to share a little bit more about your business and where they can see it and reach you and all that?
Yeah. So right now, I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. I'm actually maybe I'll have a post a business card or something. But it's Key Passage LLC. I'm on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Also on Instagram. Kind of TikTok, but they have such small videos and I have so much to say in such a short time.
Mm-hmm. It's a pain in the ass. It really is.
Thank you for saying that for me. I'm trying to be positive. But yeah, email, got my number on there. I want people to reach out. My whole thing is I also help. I'm still working as a nurse in a nursing aspect. I do concierge nursing, so I go out and help people. For instance, a gentleman I just had a couple weeks ago, he had a surgery and his family's out of state, so I show up, take him to the hospital, check in for surgery, wait till he comes out, update the family, and then when he's discharged, I took him home and helped him around the house and get things set up for him so that he can, get through that, help him with the healing, wound care, whatever needs to be done. Even if it's light housekeeping, I made his meals for him, that kind of stuff. So there's concierge nursing. My big passion is helping people in the dying process. We don't have to fear death. I don't fear death at all now. I've had really incredible experience. I'm excited to put on air, once I get those out there. Once I get to the backstory over and I get to the point where I actually have the cool stuff,
Yeah.
But I help people walk through the fears of passing. They're in terminal illness, acceptance. And to be honest, I'm also a healer in this process. And some of them don't even have to go, but they have, they've caused disease on themselves. It's literally called, disease comes from dis-ease. Your body is in dis-ease. And
that's incredible.
Yeah. And some people have actually created, because what happens is, can I just add this? I know you want to get done, but this is kind of important.
No, go ahead.
We have these triggers, our bodies, again, back to listening to our body. We have ways that our body tells us there's something wrong. And usually the first thing will be anxiety, depression, that kind of stuff. And anxiety will be I'm just feeling anxious about this and this. And your body's saying, hey, there's a problem, something's wrong. Hey, there's a problem, something's wrong. Hey, okay, I'll go to the doctor and I get on anxiety pills, right? But the problem persists, right? Then what happens is your body's like, I freaking told you something's wrong. I told you something. And so now they're like, okay, you don't want to listen? we're going to manifest physically now, because if you can't do the things that you want to do, now you'll listen and you'll actually go get some help. So when we have these things that we deal with, we cause dis-ease on ourselves, and for regret, doubt, all that kind of stuff, all these things that we're carrying, this emotional baggage we're carrying on from wherever it started. And it literally starts to eat at us, literally. And if you don't answer the first flags, then it goes into where it manifests physically. And so some of these people, some of it is their journey, and that is the way they're gonna pass. But some of them don't have to. Some of them just need healing. And it's all energetic stuff that you can actually find those things and work energetically to get rid of those blocks and stuff.
That raises a whole nother book.
We'll be talking together, sure, again.
I was going to say, I'm hoping we can have you on again.
Yes, absolutely.
Because that opens up a whole nother topic that I really want to delve into. So that's exciting.
So I do healing work. I do healing sessions. And all of it's pretty cool, incredible stuff.
Yeah.
Pets are awesome. I love doing pets because they don't have the blocks and the barriers humans do, and it's instant.
God, maybe you can save mine from being such assholes. I'm just...
So the healing stuff, just to tell you what I'm doing in the business, is concierge nursing healing, helping people with terminal illnesses and walking them through the fear process and stuff like that. So all kinds of good stuff.
That's incredible.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. I really, really appreciate it. I think what you're doing is amazing.
Of course.
Getting
Thank
it out
you.
there, it's awesome.
Yeah, we're trying. It's a bumpy road, but we're getting there.
Yeah.
But you do have business cards?
I do have business cards.
Okay. I'll take a picture.
Okay.
Or if you can leave me with one.
I'll leave one.
I'll be posting all her information on all the socials that you guys are normally familiar with. If you have any questions regarding her business, or if you would like to be in contact with her for other reasons, feel free to email me at meversusme@gmail.com, or you can comment directly on the Spotify where you'll see this episode, or anywhere you do see it. So feel free to leave a message, and look for episode 2, because this next one's going to be good. So thanks for listening. We love you.